Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 11:01, the appropriate time to begin the funeral services of Francis Spiegel. Rabbi Jenna Shaw will be officiating. We ask those of you that are present here to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off, and we welcome those of you who are joining us via live stream.
As David so beautifully said, the time to commemorate Frances is also the time of her birth, 11:01. And just like she lived every day to the fullest, the family thought so intentionally about every moment to ensure that her memory was lifted up and celebrated today at the Celebration of Life. And before we begin, I want to remind everyone that the family is here in mourning, and the gift that we're giving them right now is the gift of supporting them in their mourning. They may want to talk, they may not want to. And the way that we can show up for them is at different moments letting them share stories, letting them sit with us in silence, and just maybe offering a hug if that's something that they want. So now we can begin. I stand here today humbled to have the chance to commemorate Frances Spiegel. Her 96-year life was one that was powerful. The poet Zelda teaches that many people have multiple names throughout their life. Some people have the name of their birth, and throughout their life, they gain many more names until the name that they're given in their death. They meet people, and with each person they meet, they gain a new name. Fran was given the name by her children. She was a mom to Bill and to Scott. She was a sister to Bernie. She was Nanny. And she was so much more to all the friends in her life. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Rabbi Jenna Shaw, and I was fortunate to know Nanny, or Fran, as Nanny, as she was there with Zev and I as we grew up. She was at all the birthday parties, she showed up at our sleepovers, and as Zev and I got older, she was the one who asked how I was doing, even from thousands of miles away. She was the one who always remembered and the one who always cared. So today, we stand to celebrate her life. We're here remembering the many names of Fran, of Nanny, the many lives that she touched, and the many stories yet to be told. And as she lives on through our heart and through our memories, we commemorate her, discovering new things every day. I want to begin with a poem by Mary Oliver. The grief that we hold might be heavy in some moments, might be light in others. As we celebrate Fran's life, we might be smiling today, and that's okay. We might be crying today, and that's okay. We might have a pit in our stomachs that's too hard to bear, and that's okay too. And at different moments, that might arise in different ways. And sometimes we don't have the words. So today, hopefully, we can find some words that might help us access the emotions that we're struggling to find. Heavy by Mary Oliver. It's not the weight you carry, but how you carry it. Books, bricks, grief, it's all in the way you embrace it, balance it, carry it, when you cannot and would not put it down. 96 is a lot of years. Jewish tradition talks about the importance of living a long life. Our patriarch, Abraham, lived to 120. But it wasn't just about the years he lived, the number of years he lived. It was that each day he lived with dignity. And that was Fran. That was Nanny. Living life independently, with strength, with resilience, and with dignity until the end. She lived every day with love. We're going to read another poem by Joelle. An unending love binds creation together, like a beautiful patchwork quilt, where each piece is both unique and essential. To know only part of it is to know all of it, and to cherish the smallest thing is to cherish the greatest thing. If we quiet down, we can almost hear God lovingly sewing another stitch on creation's magnificent quilt. Listen. The unceasing love that is buried within the deep sweet of silence is the sound of Nanny, of Fran. She's here loving us every single day. As I said to the family earlier, now that Nanny and Fran is here, we shift our responsibilities from caring for her and caring for her well-being to the mitzvah of caring for ourselves. We allow ourselves to feel comfort knowing that the work is in us to carry on her memory, that it's on us to care for ourselves, to live each day and to move forward. It might feel lonely to know that we're accompanying her differently. But what Psalm 23 reminds us of is that she's not alone. She's accompanied by our souls, by our memories, and by God as she's reaching her final resting place. I'm going to sing the wordless melody of Psalm 23, and then I will read some of the words in English. Nai, 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 ai, ai. Ya, nai, 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 ya, na, na, nai. Nai, 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 ya, nai, 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 nai. Nai, 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 nai. Ya, na, nai, 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 nai. Ya, na, nai, 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 nai. Ya, nai, 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 nai. Ya, na, nai, 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 nai. Ya, na, nai, 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 nai. Nai, 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 nai. Ya, na, nai, 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 nai. Ya, na, nai, 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 nai. Ya, na, nai, 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 nai. Na, 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 nai. Ya, na, nai, 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 nai. Ya, nai, 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 nai. Ya, 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 ya. When you walk through the shadow of the valley of death, don't fear. Don't fear evil, because we will walk with you. We walk with you to help you find comfort. Our memories, our love, your love, both comfort you and comfort ourselves. God prepares a table for you in the presence of those you love. When you reach the place you love with those who have died before you, may you be met with a table, with a cup that runs over, maybe with coffee, maybe in a bowl of macaroni and cheese or ice cream. But I know that it will be a good table. It's now time to hear some words of memory by those who loved her so much and that she loved.
I was good. For all our lives, my brother Scott and I have been blessed with a mother who showed us the importance of love and family. It didn't matter whether you were her child, her niece, her nephews, her mailman, her hairdresser, or even the salesman at Neiman Marcus. She showed the same care and dedication to each relationship she had. She kept her loved ones so close to her heart. Growing up with my parents was sort of like a roller coaster. There were ups and downs, mostly ups, but my mom held everyone together. I was cheated out of time with my father, but I got a bonus of time with my mother. She lived for 96 years, totally independent, and I was blessed that I didn't have to nurse her. I just had to spend time with her, which is what I'll miss the most, especially the daily phone calls. I've already found myself reaching for the phone to call her. It didn't matter if it was 30 seconds. or 30 minutes. Time is precious. I could tell you a million stories about my mom, but the takeaway from them all is that you can find laughter in every memory. She always taught me to find the humor in everything, and you'll stay young forever. I've practiced that all my life, which my friends can tell you. Anyone who knew my mom knew she told it just like it was, speaking her mind without second thought. Her honesty came with the purest intentions, even if it was telling you how her way is the right way, which provided lots of humors for my kids and Joelle and I. No one left an interaction with my mom without a smile on their face and a stomach ache from laughing from her stories and the way she would tell them. My closest friends and family can attest to that. My mom was the most charitable person I know. She would give to any organization that sent her something in the mail. Her list got so big that I had to tell her, Mom, there are different ranked charities. Some give all the money away and some don't. So she went and got herself a book of charity rankings, and she told me that she'd only donate to the A-ranked ones from now on. So her list dwindled down to about 100. She would call me in August and say, I need to start writing checks for my charities because I won't finish by the new year, which always gave me a chuckle. I've never seen someone get so much mail in my life. Even though she pared them down doesn't mean that mail stopped. It was amazing that I would get emails from her building telling me your mom needs to empty her mailbox more often. And our accountant would tell me, I don't need a list of who, just tell me how much. But she insisted every year to write out that list for him.
She was a woman who made herself known. Even in her final days, Fran's popularity was beyond evident as neighbors and friends came to visit and told stories of their time with her. We didn't know much about the secret life she lived at the Claire, but seeing how many people she touched us.
Growing up with Nanny was eating mini waffles in the morning, bowls of ice cream at night, with trips to museums, plays, and movies in between. She would hold our hand, actually she would hold our wrist as we crossed the street and made sure we finished every lunch date with dessert. Sleepovers at her apartment meant staring out of her windows to the tiny streets below, staying up late watching TV, and exciting trips to the garbage chute and being surrounded by a wonderland of eccentric art that she'd always let us play with.
Nanny was our selfless cheerleader, always supporting us as we grew up and left Chicago. In-person visits turned to weekly phone calls, but we still felt as close to her as ever. It's hard to comprehend that Nanny isn't still a phone call away. But 96 years of Nanny is 96 years of love, and we will cherish the time we had with her forever.
Spending the last week with my mom, Joelle, Zev, and Talia was a week that I know she created because her greatest enjoyment was having us all together in one place. And I know that gave her the peace right up until the end. I love you, Mom. Give my love to Dad and enjoy your journey.
Thank you for that. I've always been shorter than your family, but it feels very clear right now. A number of years ago, Rabbi Brad Artson, can you hear me? Great. Gave a high holiday sermon asking the question, what does it mean Great. Thanks. A number of years ago, Rabbi Brad Artson gave a high holiday sermon asking the question, what does it mean to live life for your eulogy? By that, he asks the ultimate question, what does it mean to live a life worth celebrating? I've been thinking about this question a lot as it relates to Fran. She was someone who lived life. She lived with resilience, bravery, honesty, persistence, and love. She was fiercely independent and had a way of bringing more life and more love to those around her just by existing. Frank Sinatra, Fran's favorite musician, said that he wanted to be remembered as someone who had a wonderful time living life, someone who had good friends and loving family. And I don't think that there could be truer words about how Fran would have wanted to have been remembered. The stories about her, her strong opinions, her bravery, the way she was unapologetically herself, and the love she put into the world will be her legacy. When we look back at 96 years, think about how much life must have happened during that time. It's a lot of days of reading the newspaper, opportunities to keep lots of items, many chances to form thought-out opinions, meals of macaroni and cheese, and lots of opportunities to make friends. Over 96 years, Fran must have met and gotten to know lots of people. It made lots of people feel like they mattered, and not just superficially mattered, really, really mattered. When I was speaking with the family, there seemed to be a clear theme about Fran's life. She had an incredible way of connecting with people. Whoever it was, however they met, Fran showed up for people 110%. She left an impression on everyone she met, whether the doorman, the hairdresser, her trainer, the people who worked at Neiman Marcus, doctors, nurses, and the list goes on and on. Always asking them about their lives, their families, and the things that mattered to them. She didn't just ask to make conversation. She asked because she cared so deeply about them and what mattered to them. And she remembered what each person said. She lived in a building that was attached to Neiman Marcus. When it was cold outside, Fran would cut through Neiman Marcus, stopping at each section and making conversation with the various employees. She'd make her own commentary, sometimes welcome, sometimes not, on their fashion and how they were doing at their jobs. She became friends with one particular salesperson, the same way she became friends with the hairdresser and many others. She asked about their lives, and before they knew it, they were having lunch together and continued to talk about their lives. He wasn't a salesperson, and she wasn't a person who lived in the building. They were friends. She had a whole world of people who loved her and were swept up by her loving energy. As the family joked, there was a secret life of Fran. All the people who loved her and all the people who she loved back. This loving nature extended far beyond the people that she befriended living her life. Fran was a devoted mom, wife, sister, aunt, and grandma. Fran was lucky to love her husband, Stanley. A traveling salesman, the two met, and she immediately knew that he was the one she would marry. The pair didn't let distance get in the way of their love, and he would travel to Chicago to see her. Their marriage allowed them to travel all over together, bringing Bill along. The two of them brought their strong personalities and always had lively debate and discussion. Although he died young, he was always with her until the end. The elevator in her building was broken during the last week of her life, and when it became fixed the day that she died, Bill and Jody noticed that the brand of the elevator was Stanley. Stan was waiting for her and welcoming her to join him with open arms or with open elevator doors. Scott expressed so clearly how loving Fran was. She took him in and was the most dedicated mother. When he became sick, she took care of him and ensured that he felt held at every moment. Bill, you two shared an undeniably special bond. Not only because you two shared a birthday and would have dinner every year to celebrate. She would do anything for her kids. When Bill was learning how to drive, she traded in her Cadillac for a gold Firebird, because God forbid Bill learn how to drive the Cadillac. And then the gold Firebird became the family car. This love and devotion was immediately shared with Jody when she joined the family, as the two of them shared their own special bond. Bill, there are not enough words to express the care and empathy you brought towards caring for your mom. You were by her side every step of the way until the end, and I'm sure she's eternally grateful. Zev and Talia, she loved you more than words can express. I can't imagine the joy she had knowing you were there by her side in her final moments, although she may have had some feelings about you stroking her hair. When Zev came out, she immediately accepted him with open arms. Usually when someone comes out as trans, it takes some people some time to adjust to new names and pronouns. Not Nanny. She was the only person who never messed up Zev's names and pronouns. When they were cleaning out Nanny's apartment, Bill found a note where she wrote Zev's new name, his email address, and above it, the letters LGBT. And then underneath it was just another note about something she needed to remember. She clearly referred back to that note and made sure that she wouldn't mess up. Supporting the LGBT community then became important to her. This was Nanny. Zev and Talia were the lights of her life. Talia, you two could talk about anything, and you trusted each other, with sleepovers and opportunities to call each other. Even thousands of miles away, she was your cheerleader, and she was very proud of you. Fran always had a sharp mind. Her days of education took shape at Von Steuben and then continued at U of I, where she studied accounting. Her brilliance led her to her first job at a clothing store, where she was underage, but applied for an incredibly competitive job. The hiring people were so impressed with Fran that they hired her, and she didn't disappoint. They had no idea how old she was. Her brilliance spoke for itself. This intelligence has continued to guide her throughout her life. She had many loved ones and interests. She was an avid art collector and loved sharing her love of art with others. She'd take Talia and Zev to art museums and even encouraged them to touch and play with the art in her own home. She loved speaking and learning and was particularly gifted at sharing her opinions. She shared in the most authentic way. She brought her bravery and resilience that led her through her journey with breast cancer and continued to shape the discussions that she had. She was also incredibly generous. She was committed to helping not only the people she met interpersonally, but through her money. She had stacks and stacks of letters from organizations thanking her for her support, and she gave everywhere, from the Jewish Federation to animal support organizations, and everywhere in between. This fierceness was part of what led her to live with such independence and liveliness. She was the life of the party. She brought the spunk, the love, and the passion, and those of us who were touched by her were lucky. There's a psalm that's frequently said in the morning liturgy. It says, Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Od Yahaleluha Selah. Happy are those who dwell in your house. Fran was happy with where she dwelled. And by meeting others, she brought them into her house as well, her physical and her metaphorical house. And just by being her and by welcoming them in, she made them happy too. And now as Fran turns to her new house, it's on us to continue to welcome people in, bringing happiness and love to all that both dwell in our houses and in Fran's, through her memory, her love, and her legacy. I know that Fran will be missed. As we lift up her memory, we turn towards imagining, metaphorically or physically, what it looks like for her to reach her final resting place. As her body moves to the mausoleum, her soul is everywhere. It's in us. It's in every connection that we make, in every piece of chocolate we eat, and in every opportunity we have to dance, even with a walker. We turn to the words of El Malei Rachamim, the Jewish memorial prayer, asking for compassion and love as Fran reaches her final resting place. I invite you to rise or shift your attention in whatever way feels comfortable for you. You may rise either physically or metaphorically for El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim shochen b'marmim hamse menucha nachona tarha kanfecha shina b'ma'alot kedushim utaharim kezachor harakia mazhirim et nishmat Francis Sheha'ala le'olama began eden teche menuchata ana bal harachamim haztirea baseter kanfecha le'olamim usaror bitzror hachayim et nishmata Adonai hu nahalta vetanhua beshalom al mishkava venomar amen. May her soul be accompanied by our love, by her love, and be spread with compassion as she moves to her final resting place. You may be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, the entombment service will continue in a few moments. From 3 to 9 p.m., everyone is invited to the Spiegel residence at 2218 North Seminary Avenue in Chicago. Memorials to the Jewish United Fund would be appreciated. For those of you who are here, that information is on the service folder. For those of you who are joining us online, all that information can be found on the funeral home's website. Just a moment, the gentlemen from the cemetery are going to escort Fran to the crypt. They'll get the casket ready, and then we'll all go to the crypt for the mourner's Kaddish. So at this time, we'll ask the gentlemen to take her casket as we listen to just a little bit of music. Her favorite music.